All right, so today we're diving deep into credit scores. You know, those three little digits that can feel kind of mysterious sometimes,
Yeah, they can definitely be confusing.
but they have a huge impact, right?
Absolutely. They affect so much more than we realize.
And to help us decode all things credit, we're turning to Larry Moten's blog, How to Improve Your Credit Score. Now, what I found really interesting is that Moten doesn't just focus on the technical stuff. He ties it back to this whole personal development philosophy, which he talks more about in his ebook, Personal Development for the Soul.
Right. It's like he's saying improving your credit isn't just about the numbers, it's about taking control of your life.
Exactly. It's about feeling empowered, not intimidated by your finances.
And that's where his whole "I'm tired of living this way" mantra comes in.
So true. It's that moment when you decide you're ready for a change, you're ready to step up and take charge.
And he's been there himself. He struggled with credit, figured out a system that worked for him, and now he's sharing those insights in his blog.
So he's speaking from experience, not just theory, which makes his advice even more valuable, I think.
Totally agree.
Okay, so let's start with the basics. For anyone who might be new to this whole credit score thing, what are they really? And why should we even care?
Well, Moten explains that your credit score is basically a numerical snapshot of your creditworthiness. It ranges from 300 to 850, and the higher your score, the better.
It's like your financial GPA.
Right. Yeah, kind of.
And lenders use this score to decide how risky it is to lend you money.
Exactly.
So whether you're applying for a credit card, a car loan, or even a mortgage, your credit score plays a huge role.
And it can even impact things like insurance rates and rental applications.
Wow, I didn't realize it had that much reach.
Yeah.
So basically, good credit opens doors, while bad credit can make things a lot more difficult.
It's like this hidden language that speaks volumes about your financial health.
And Moten points out that millions of Americans are struggling with poor credit, which shows just how widespread this issue is.
68 million to be exact.
That's a staggering number. But he also emphasizes that it doesn't have to be a life sentence. You can improve your credit no matter where you're starting from.
And that's really encouraging because it means we have the power to change our financial situation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So how does he define those different credit score categories we always hear about, like, poor, fair, good, excellent?
He breaks it down pretty clearly. A score below 580 is generally considered poor. 580 to 669 is fair.
Okay.
670 to 739 is good. 740 to 799 is very good. And 800 or above is excellent.
Gotcha. So those are the benchmarks we should be aiming for.
And he stresses that building good credit takes time and consistent effort. We're talking about making on-time payments for at least 12 to 24 months.
No quick fixes, huh?
Nope. It's all about establishing a track record of responsible financial behavior.
Makes sense. Now, here's a question I've always had. Do those everyday bills like utilities and cell phone payments affect your credit score?
That's a common misconception. A lot of people think those bills don't really factor in, but they can.
Really? How so?
If you pay these bills with a credit card that reports to all three credit bureaus, you're actually demonstrating responsible credit behavior.
That's a good tip. So those seemingly mundane bills can actually work in your favor.
Exactly.
It's all about using credit wisely and consistently.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, managing money can feel really overwhelming sometimes, especially when life throws unexpected curveballs.
Absolutely.
And that's where budgeting comes in, right?
Moten dedicates a good portion of his blog to budgeting because he sees it as the foundation of financial stability.
It's like building a house. You need a solid foundation to support everything else.
Right, and he advocates for this pay yourself first principle, which means prioritizing saving and investing before anything else.
So it's not about depriving yourself, it's about making sure your future self is taken care of.
Exactly. It's like putting your financial oxygen mask on first before helping others.
Love that analogy. So how does Moten suggest we go about creating a practical budget?
He lays out a really clear roadmap, starting with tracking all your expenses no matter how small.
Even those little impulse buys.
Even those. Because they can really add up without us realizing it.
It's like those sneaky ATM fees that chip away at your balance.
Exactly.
So awareness is key.
Absolutely.
Once you have a handle on your spending, what's next?
Then you calculate your daily allowance, always aiming for a positive balance.
So you're not spending more than you earn.
Right.
And of course, he's a big advocate for having an emergency fund.
He recommends at least $1,000 to start, just to have that buffer against unexpected expenses.
That peace of mind is priceless, honestly. Now, we've talked about budgeting and building healthy financial habits, but how do we actually get a clear picture of where we stand credit-wise?
That's where credit reports come in.
Ah, yes, those mysterious documents.
Moten describes them as your detailed financial snapshot. They reveal your entire credit history, loans, credit card usage, payment patterns, it's all there.
So it's like your financial resume, in a way.
Pretty much. And he emphasizes the importance of ordering reports from all three credit bureaus.
Wait, there are three.
Yep.
Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion.
Why do we need to check all three?
Because each bureau might have slightly different information.
Interesting.
So it's important to get the full picture.
So it's not just about checking your credit score, it's about digging deeper into those reports.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've got our budget in check, we've ordered our credit reports. What about actually applying for credit? That always makes me a little nervous.
I hear ya. It can be intimidating, but Moten has some great advice for navigating that process.
Like what?
Well, he suggests starting with pre-qualified offers.
What are those?
They're like soft pulls on your credit, meaning they won't impact your score.
So it's a way to window shop for credit options without any consequences.
Exactly.
That takes away some of the pressure, for sure. So once you've dipped your toes in the credit pool, so to speak, what's the ideal scenario for actually applying?
He recommends applying when you already have decent credit and never charging more than 30% of your credit limit.
30%, okay. This magic number is all about credit utilization, a concept he really stresses.
I've heard that term before, but I'll admit I'm still a little fuzzy on what it actually means.
It's basically the ratio of how much credit you're using compared to your total available credit.
Give me an example.
Sure. Let's say you have a credit card with a $1,000 limit and you charge $300. That means your credit utilization is 30%.
Okay, I'm following.
Keeping this percentage low is key for a good credit score because it shows lenders you're not maxing out your cards and can manage your debt responsibly.
So it's not just about paying your bills on time, it's also about how much of your available credit you're actually using.
Exactly. It's one of those little-known details that can make a big difference.
I'm learning so much already.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what about people who are starting from scratch or rebuilding their credit? What does Moten suggest for them?
He recommends secured credit cards.
Those are the ones where you put down a deposit, right?
Precisely. It's like a safety net for the lender. They're a good way to establish a positive payment history and demonstrate responsible credit behavior, especially if you've had some bumps in the road before.
It's like a training wheels version of a regular credit card.
You could say that.
Now, I know Moten gets really specific in his blog, offering 9 key strategies to improve your credit score. Should we walk through those?
Absolutely.
Let's do it.
So he kicks it off with what we just discussed. Strategically paying down your credit card balances to keep that utilization in check.
Makes sense.
What's next? He talks about asking for higher credit limits on your existing cards.
Wait, really?
Yeah, it might seem counterintuitive, but it can actually help lower your credit utilization ratio, which boosts your score.
Oh, that's clever.
It's all about working the system strategically.
So it's not about getting more credit necessarily. It's about managing what you already have more effectively.
Exactly.
I like it.
And speaking of strategic moves, he also suggests becoming an authorized user on someone else's credit card.
That one always makes me a bit nervous. What are the pros and cons there?
If the primary cardholder has great credit history and a high credit limit, being an authorized user can give your score a nice boost.
That makes sense.
But here's the catch. It only works if the account reports to all 3 credit bureaus.
So you need to do your research and make sure that's the case.
Absolutely.
What about potential downsides?
The biggest one is that if the primary cardholder racks up debt or starts missing payments, your score will take a hit too.
Yikes.
It's like being financially tied to their hip.
So choose your credit partner wisely.
Haha, exactly.
What other strategies does Moten recommend?
Well, paying all your bills on time is a given. It's the cornerstone of good credit.
No surprises there.
And we already talked about checking your credit reports meticulously and disputing any errors.
Right.
But here's one that often gets overlooked. Dealing with collections accounts.
Those are the worst.
He emphasizes resolving those promptly because they can severely damage your credit score.
So don't just ignore those scary letters?
Nope. Face them head on. Sometimes negotiation or settlements are possible, so it's worth exploring those options.
Okay, good to know.
And we touched on using secured credit cards to rebuild credit, but did you know you can also get credit for rent and utility payments?
Really? How does that work?
There are services that report these payments to credit bureaus. which can help, especially if you're trying to establish a stronger credit history.
This is amazing. I had no idea.
And finally, he advocates for building a diverse credit mix, meaning having different types of credit, like credit cards, installment loans, and mortgages.
This is like a balanced financial portfolio.
Exactly. It demonstrates financial maturity and adaptability.
So much to think about. Now, let's circle back to becoming an authorized user for a moment. It seems like a powerful tool, but I'm curious, what are your thoughts on the ethics of it? Using someone else's credit history to boost your own.
That's a great question. It's definitely something to consider carefully.
What are the potential pitfalls?
Well, if it's not done responsibly and with full transparency between both parties, it can be problematic. There's potential for abuse, especially if someone's being pressured or taken advantage of.
So it's not a decision to take lightly.
Definitely not. It's crucial to have open communication and a clear understanding of the risks and responsibilities involved.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, building good credit is about personal accountability and taking control of your finances.
Couldn't agree more.
Now, Moten doesn't just focus on folks with poor credit. He also has advice for those with fair credit scores, falling somewhere between 580 and 669.
Right. They're not in the danger zone, but they're not quite in the excellent range either.
So what are their options?
He suggests exploring online lenders, credit unions, and even big banks.
Good.
Each has its pros and cons, so it's about finding the best fit for your individual needs and circumstances.
Good to know there's still a good range of choices available. Finally, Moten shouts out two specific companies, Kickoff and Self. What are those all about?
He recommends them as potential allies in your credit building journey.
Okay, tell me more.
Kickoff offers a subscription-based credit builder account. You make monthly payments that get reported to the credit bureaus, helping you build that positive payment history.
That's interesting. And what about Self?
Self offers a credit builder loan. It's a bit different. You borrow a small amount, which gets secured in a savings account.
Okay.
You repay the loan in monthly installments, and those payments get reported to the bureaus, boosting your score.
So both options help you build credit while also encouraging saving habits. Double win.
Exactly. And what's great is that both Kickoff and Self don't do hard credit checks when you apply, so you can check your eligibility without impacting your score.
That definitely eases the anxiety.
Yeah.
So we've covered a lot of ground here, from the nitty-gritty of credit scores to some pretty smart strategies for improving them. What's the overarching message Moten wants to leave readers with?
Well, I think his biggest takeaway is that
Yeah.
no matter where you are on your credit journey, you have the power to change your situation.
It's not a life sentence.
Exactly. It might take time, dedication, and a willingness to learn, but it's definitely possible.
And he seems to emphasize that it's not about achieving perfection overnight. It's about making consistent progress and celebrating those small wins along the way.
Absolutely. He reminds us that building healthy financial habits is a marathon, not a sprint. There will be setbacks, but the key is to keep learning, keep adapting, and never give up on your goals.
That's such a powerful message. And he doesn't just leave us with vague advice either. He provides concrete action steps, like checking your credit reports, setting up a realistic budget, and even exploring resources like Kickoff and Self.
Those tools can be incredibly empowering, especially if you're feeling lost or overwhelmed.
It's about finding what works for you and taking those first steps towards positive change.
Precisely.
And I love how he weaves his personal development philosophy into these practical financial tips. It's like he's saying that improving your credit score is also about improving your relationship with yourself.
And your overall well-being. That's what makes his approach so unique, I think. It's not just about mastering the mechanics of credit, it's about shifting your mindset, building new habits, and ultimately taking control of your financial future.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here, and I'm feeling pretty motivated to tackle my own credit situation head on. But I want to hear from our listener now. What's one small, actionable step you can take today to either start improving your credit or maintain your already good score?
That's a great question to ponder. Remember, even small changes can have a ripple effect over time.
They can snowball into something bigger.
Exactly. It might be something as simple as setting up payment reminders, or reviewing your budget for any unnecessary expenses.
Or maybe it's finally ordering those credit reports and facing those numbers head on.
Whatever that step is for you, remember that you have the power to shape your financial destiny.
Well said. And as Larry Moten reminds us, it all starts with that "I'm tired of living this way" realization and the belief that you deserve financial well-being. So on that note, we hope this deep dive has given you the knowledge and motivation to take charge of your credit journey.